Welcome to another edition of Homes and Estates for Today and Tomorrow, where you learn the latest trends in design and residential architecture. I'm delighted to have with me today Hilton VanderHorn Architects. We have Chuck Hilton and Doug VanderHorn, the two founders of Hilton VanderHorn Architects. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me explain, first of all, that your clientele really comes from the top 1% of households. And typically, you would have terms like deep pockets and independently wealthy to associate. But I wonder, is there perhaps a little shift in mindset given today's economic climate?
I think everybody was impacted by the downturn in the economy, and no matter what your social or financial status is, I think everybody felt the impact and made adjustments in the way they did business and their outlook on things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a general feeling, even if someone has the means and can have whatever they want, there's this feeling that they're still going to search for value, that they're still going to shop a little bit more. And I think it's just, maybe it's not so cool to flaunt money right now.
Have you seen any cancellations in your projects?
We did not have any cancellations. I mean, certainly the inflow of new work slowed down.
Yeah, certainly.
But remarkably, all the projects we had going into the downturn continued and went through.
Yeah. I think it for us, a little bit of time lagged because we had such a backlog of work. We were very lucky. And we continue to be busy, but we meet with a lot more people before we gain a new commission. And I think that shows what the mindset is, where people are meeting with more architects, are shopping a little harder, and people are discussing fee a lot more than they used to.
What other topics are they bringing up? What are they looking for in their homes?
People have always come to us for quality traditional design, and I don't think that aspect has changed. I think when you're going to make a big investment, people want to feel like it's safe and that it's not a kind of a trendy thing that's going to be out of favor in a few years. So I think from that aspect, it's stayed consistent. I think what's changed is things are not as glitzy as they maybe were one day. Things are more, they're lower key. Certainly the scale of the projects has come down a little bit. The finishes are, they're more handcrafted, old world kind of finishes as opposed to kind of shiny new things that you might have seen a decade or two ago.
So let me think of an example. Flooring. Instead of a highly polished floor, you now have distressed.
So instead of stain and several coats of finish with a sheen, now it's hand scraped and colored and maybe waxed or something like that.
It actually is no less expensive. It probably costs a little bit more,
but
it's a lower key, even a little more historic, a subtle finish. It's a subtle point, but it's not just the flooring. It's other things. It carries on through. I think that one of the big things is people are just generally being a little more careful about how much they build, and they want to make sure they're going to utilize all that space. They want it to be purposeful.
So is there a little bit more consideration to each room? What do we really need? What is important?
People are careful that that they're going to really use their rooms. I'd say for example, we've always done. Some people say, oh, living rooms are kind of outdated. Nobody uses them anymore, and I think we've never really gotten to that point with our clients, but it's less important where certainly the kitchen and the family room that people live in, and even dining rooms. I mean, we've got more and more requests for really big dining rooms because people see it as a focus on the family and those kind of values.
Would that be a formal dining room, or would it be a dining area that is part of the family room space?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, I think in truth we have done some smaller living rooms, and it used to be that the living room was the big, grand entertaining space. And we have done some homes with smaller living rooms because people really have said, this is a room I'm hardly ever going to use.
Have you seen trends to combine rooms even? I'm thinking of a library merging into a living room, or are they still separate spaces?
Not so much.
You know, a library might function as a formal entertaining space. Might also be the home office for somebody.
That's an interesting point,
certainly,
yes.
Certainly kitchens and family room. That line has been blurred for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Kitchen, family room, breakfast room.
So is it a trend toward a more compact arrangement, perhaps? I'm thinking about the lower level that could find other uses other than just storage.
You know, I think that there was a period when some architects were providing large galleries even, which were wide hallways. And I think they've disappeared. I think they're kind of useless.
Especially in the speculative market, there was
Yes.
this, you walk in and you have this giant empty foyer and big empty halls and things like that.
The grandiosity has definitely been shaken out of these houses.
Interesting.
So I think everybody's
Two-story
using.
grand entry hall is gone.
That's an important change.
I could think of very few projects or clients where there's, you go back and you say, wow, that room's not being used, what a waste. I mean, I think people are basically using all their spaces and using them well, whatever it is that they're building.
When I think of house size, am I going to find smaller homes, actual square footage reductions?
Not really,
Not really.
I mean,
Let's say not in our market, not in our.
Right, you have a very specific.
We have a very narrow market.
Yeah.
Where we are and with what we do.
well, I think people, when they go to build this dream home of theirs, they have a wish list, and I think they wouldn't want to build the house and then be missing something that would be important, either immediately or down the road. So I think, even though, we're always talking about building greener and being more efficient, and the first conversation is, what can we cut out? How can we make the house smaller? And it's and in the end, we find out very few things actually kind of get I think
Completely eliminated from the wish list.
But people try to just make sure they're going to get the most out of what they build. This is a trend across the country, and I read from the 1950s to the 1970s. The houses, went up 50, 70%, and from like 1970 to now, houses are 50% bigger across the whole country. Mm-hmm. So this is a trend. People, I think, just have accumulated more and more things, and things like home offices were mm-hmm. rare and now are common, and home gyms were rare at one point. And these things are really mandatory, certainly in our market. And I don't think they're going away, and people aren't building homes without them. So the square footage just kind of keeps creeping up.
Mm-hmm.
It does creep, but I think they are a little more thoughtful about it.
You touched briefly on new technologies. What kind of new technologies are you finding are really getting attention these days?
Where do we begin? This is the thing now. The green revolution
mm-hmm.
has so much to do with the technologies, and we are using a whole series of things. So, why don't you?
Well, I think, in general, it's hard to, in certain areas, electronics and HVAC and things like that, it's hard to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
You do a project, and a year or two later, you say, oh, well, that was wonderful. Let's go back and use, oh, no, that's obsolete. Now we need to go, into something else. But I think, the biggest thing that comes to mind is, energy efficiency. And so, just from the spray foam installations are really becoming kind of standard at this point for high efficiency. And, this country will be at the European Passive House standards by 2016, I'm told. Is an insulation contractor just told me a couple of weeks ago that's now going to be law.
That's still a big move from where we are currently.
It's a big move.
It is, and we're going to step up over the next.
In Germany, it's common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vapor barriers and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
The LED lighting for a long time was just kind of a novelty, or was for specialty, accent lighting. Now, it's really reached a point where they're powerful enough and they're bright enough that they're becoming the standard downlights in all the new houses we're having under construction.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of HVAC, you're either doing high efficiency systems, or we're doing almost all geothermal on the larger homes. You need, I don't know what, my rule of thumb is you need about an acre of land for that to work well, because there's setbacks to the wells from other things on the property and so forth. But there's tax credits in place where it's basically free at this point. It's 50% more, so a $100,000 system would cost roughly $150,000, but then there's a 30% tax credit. So when you're done, it's almost free to start with. And then, you know, the latest thing we've been trying out is something called a cogeneration system, which is basically a generator on site that makes electricity using primarily natural gas, but you recapture all the waste heat and then use it to heat the house. And we're seeing, you know, remarkable results.
Absolutely remarkable results.
Interesting.
Once you combine all these things, I mean, a house a very large home that we completed recently, approaching 13,000 square feet. When we combined all these things, it's got spray foam, it's got super insulated windows, it's got geothermal heating, it's got LED lighting, it's generating its own electricity. So the house is so tight and producing electricity for a much lower rate. We're running this house, we just passed the 1 year mark, and they spent $6,500 for the whole year on energy. That's natural gas and electricity combined, because many of the hours, while they're not using their peak capacity of electricity, their meter is turning backwards. So absolutely remarkable when you combine all these things.
And I hear there's a new generation in the works also that takes some of the heat that you don't use during the summertime, that you have to get rid of, frankly, and run it across some chillers so that you can convert it into cool air.
We haven't encountered that yet.
That's supposedly in the works.
It could be.
But all these things they're changing so fast. And,
it's amazing.
And you know, the units that are state of the art today, you know, 2 or 3 years from now, they'll be something, you know, even better.
That's right.
So, and then I think the other thing that comes to mind in terms of technology, which is kind of old world, is just wood. I mean, framing lumber. I mean, you know, the trees, the old growth trees are pretty much gone, and the new lumber is expensive, and the quality is generally not great. So we're seeing engineered framing lumber. We're seeing replacements for siding instead of wood. You know, you see things like AZAC and other synthetic materials, composite columns, and things really generated by people not wanting a lot of maintenance. And then, you know, even like decking and so forth. So, I mean, we're using those selectively, but they can be quite environmentally friendly and also be great for maintenance in the long run.
All of this new technology, new materials, I find it fascinating, and I'm personally a big fan, but it really also requires the right team approach to install it. You need the right contractors who are really up on it, that have a certain degree of sophistication to do it. What kind of thoughts do you have around that?
That's 100% true. I mean, there aren't a lot of people doing the geothermal, a lot of people that we really trust with these larger projects. So we do have, you know, a fairly tight-knit group of consultants that we're using again and again, and kind of honing how we work together and how the systems work together. It is pretty cutting edge, at least at the scale that we're doing it. So we do rely on a fairly tight-knit group, especially with the cogen. There's only one supplier of the units that we're using. A couple of people installing it, but only one supplier.
I think there's two main categories. One is the design team. So we're the architects. You know, there's landscape architects, interior designers, engineers. Certainly attorneys and land planners for approvals, lighting consultants, thermal moisture consultants, and a lot of these houses. There's a lot of things going on, and this needs to be carefully coordinated. Certainly AV. And these houses, there's so much technology and so many specialty things getting mixed together that you really you need this team to call on. And the degree to which they participate and how the team works varies project to project. But we basically have a stable of these great, consultants that we've worked with on one hand, and then equally important is out in the field having a great general contractor who brings a good team of subcontractors who are knowledgeable, and that when these guys go to do the work, they don't just pull up in the morning and start doing things, but it's planned out and they think ahead, and that they're coordinating with each other and they're asking questions in their layout stages and in their installation stages and so forth, so that things go together smoothly, because there's some of these sections of the building, some of these cavities and stuff where everything's so tight. They're down to a few inches one way or the other to fit all this stuff in, and you really need a person with a lot of experience to know and to foresee what's coming down the line and to do it well.
Yeah, and we have these meetings with all the contractors in the mechanical room, because they all want a big chunk of the real estate in the mechanical room. Or actually, we end up with 2 or 3 mechanical rooms, and you have to have these coordination meetings where people are, making sure everything's gonna fit and gonna work together and be accessible.
And then there are code issues to deal with, plenty, I'm sure, also.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of.
We'd really like to spend more time designing buildings, but I mean, but this is the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complicated world.
Yeah. It's a grand puzzle in a way.
It is.
At the same time, I think there's a great trend in technology towards simplifying things. It's more user-friendly at the end of the day.
And that's the trick, because they're really not simple. They're really complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
But the client wants it to be extremely simple.
Exactly.
And that's where the integration,
the
integration challenges.
The greatest new thing is people using their iPhones and their iPads to run things in their houses, because the interface is easy and they know how to use it and they're comfortable with it. And but the old stereo system with 100 buttons, and I mean, not one person. I can hardly think of a client that thinks they're a techie and loves this stuff. They all come in and say, "I hate this stuff. I want it as simple as possible." At the end of the day, there's a lot of things they want, and it'll vary client to client. But it's not so easy to control and keep on top of.
Right.
So making it simple in design and simple in operation is a real serious challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I had a client who early in the meetings said, I don't want a smart house. I just want a dumb house. But you know what? They really don't want a dumb house.
Right.
In the end, they want
dumb
a house.
enough to fit on a phone.
In the end, they want a house that incorporates the latest stuff, because it saves them a lot of money when it works.
Yeah.
And it better work.
So is the new definition dumb in a house means easy for me to operate?
Easy to operate. Yeah.
Easy to operate, absolutely.
Which takes tremendous skill.
It takes a lot of effort.
Everything's coming with chips now. I mean, your appliances are coming with chips. Your
Right.
lights have chips.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. In order to reach the efficiency and for these things to be high performance, they're all like little computer, or high tech things, and it's complicated.
I almost think that a client that says, I want a dumb house, what they really want is they don't want to see any of this stuff. And that's something that we really do well, is we hide all that stuff. I mean, our work is classical in nature and historically based and very finely crafted, and they look like well-crafted older homes, but they're loaded with this stuff. But the client doesn't want to see that, so that's the challenge. Is getting all that stuff.
Is there a
concealed.
pendulum swing toward wanting texture, feeling, age in my home? Also, I mean, technology can be very distant, and it sounds to me like your clients are looking for homey texture, something I can connect with at the same time.
There's a comfort and familiarity to old, natural kind of things. I mean, we're seeing natural wood tones, kind of organic kind of color schemes in things. So yeah, I think, I don't know whether it's a reaction against the technology or what, but I would say, that's we're going that way.
There's simultaneously a level of craftsmanship that people are appreciating with these scraped wood floors that actually really look old, and yet a simplicity of some of the detailing. And this mostly probably pertains to the interiors, because a lot of our clients are using more contemporary furnishings and more contemporary interiors. But it's there's simultaneously an old world feel and yet a simplicity to it.
Before we got on camera, you mentioned that homes are no longer filled with antiques. So there is a simplicity, but an age, but not in the antique-filled kind of ways. Am I getting this correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I think Greenwich used to have lots of antique shops, and now, they're all basically gone.
So that's a big shift in style.
And
It's a huge shift.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, I've always appreciated fine antiques. I think that you're seeing more modern homes, and you see a lot of people who don't want to go that far, but because they want kind of the safety and security and familiarity of a traditional home, but they do want that kind of clean, kind of uncluttered feel.
It's a bifurcation. I think that there are still sophisticated people that will always have their great antiques, and certainly will have the great paintings and
maybe a little
beautiful
instant
rugs.
gratification too, because to collect really nice antiques, it takes time, and these things
Sure.
are found and evolve. And a lot of times, especially with the larger homes, people move in and they don't want to wait 5 or 10 years to have it filled properly. They want to live in it immediately and live in it comfortably. And sometimes you just can't find the right configuration, or to find the right old antique is very difficult. So I think maybe a little bit of instant gratification too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The whole process of building must have changed also. We're so interconnected around the world. Sourcing is a completely different enterprise and undertaking these days. Tell me about that in your experience.
We're sourcing things from all over the world, and it's not really we try. We like to source things locally, and we try to, and yet there's just all these materials and all these things available to us now. Certainly the internet has made discovery of building materials and products a lot more apparent to us and to our clients, and our clients are traveling the world. More people are traveling more than they ever have, so when they come back and they see something or discover something wonderful, they want to bring it home with them, or they want to incorporate it into their house. So there's that. And then just shipping and those kind of things is a lot easier than it used to be. And I have a project now where we're doing, and we're buying timbers from the Carolinas, and we're buying custom lamps from New Orleans, and we're buying limestone. I'm over in France buying limestone, and yet other stones coming from China and other stones coming locally, and there's just so much available. Like there's so many options now, and people have the options of the best products from around the world. It's been that way with stone and tile and things for a long time, but a lot more products. There's these little cottage industry vendors making weather vanes and lamps and door hardware and things, and you discover something you love, and there's no reason you can't just call up or log in and get it for your project. So
and the pricing is very different depending on where you're purchasing it. I mean, you can purchase mahogany windows from Poland and have the whole house worth shipped over here for less. A lot of our windows actually come from Canada now, and depending on how the dollar is trading versus the Canadian dollar, people are just so aware of the aspects of trade and about the price differential and about the availability.
That's a wonderful development. To be able to say, I know I want the very best, and I'm going to source around the globe to find it, is wonderful.
maybe
It's complex and time-consuming.
It isn't. I mean, it's not a very green thing to be shipping stone from China.
Yes.
Good point.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
good point.
Whole houses of stone coming from China. I mean, it's so inexpensive to buy the material that the fact that you're shipping it, still makes it competitive. But it's not exactly.
And we have cities around the world where to somebody who hasn't visited, they wouldn't know whether it was in one side of the globe or the other. So I think we are losing a bit of our identity, regional identity. So, but
That's
you know,
true.
there's pros and cons to it.
And it's certainly, you know, if you could say that everything was coming from the U.S., obviously, you know, it would provide more work for U.S. people, U.S. workers. But, you know, in Asia, they're buying things that we make as well. So everything's getting a little more mixed up, I'm sure.
Tell me, are there any other trends that we really want to know about?
I think the other thing that comes up continuously is outdoor living. Families are looking for, you know, outdoor entertainment spaces. So there's lots of, you know, pool houses and outbuildings and entertainment spaces.
Fireplaces, outdoor fireplaces, you know, near the swimming pool, spas.
Sounds like that list is getting more elaborate too.
It is. Kitchens, outdoor cooking is
Yeah.
hot. Everybody wants to do it.
Yeah, it's no longer just the grill.
No. Much
So,
bigger.
so that's a trend that's just picking up steam.
Is it in this setting of a porch, terrace, pool, cabana?
All of the above.
It all goes together, yeah. I mean, and something maybe can use 3 seasons or 4.
So you can be outside of the weather.
Outdoor dining.
Outdoor dining.
I mean, not just a picnic table, but where people, you know, you're setting up kind of a formal table on an outdoor, you know, an outdoor kind of palette.
Entertainment.
And we were speaking about LED lighting. I'm sure there are quite elaborate exterior lighting plans to go with that program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and LED's well suited for outside. I mean, it doesn't never have to change a bulb. So
If you had to give one piece of advice to somebody who would like to build a home someday, what would it be? What would they really have to focus on and be
so
prepared?
take your time.
Take
I
your
think
time.
people tend to rush through things. I mean, it takes a long time to get to the point where they make the decision, maybe and have the financial, you know, commitment to do it, and then they want to, you know, a lot of people want to go, and there's a lot of decisions to make, and if you rush through them, you know, then you end up having to revisit them, or you know, you wish you did something different. So I just say give yourself enough time.
Talking about time, our time is up, unfortunately, already. I want to thank you for coming in. Thank you for your candid observations. I very much appreciate it. To our viewers, please visit Sabine'sHome.com, where you can find a recast of this program. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and check us out online. This is Sabine of Sabine'sHome.com. See you next time. Good night.